How goes it, he, she's, and theys? So to finally wrap up the Kingdom reviews, I thought it'd be nice to additionally finish by looking at the Decepticon Unicron trifecta, starting up with the near perfection of Cyclonus and followed up upon by the almost there frustration of Scourge. Thus it's only appropriate that I wrap it up by taking a look at the Mad Tyrant himself, Galvatron. With that being said, pretty much everyone's already sung this figure's praises, so it's been a bit redundant for me to cover it in much detail now. Thankfully, I do have a very useful loophole to exploit in the form of Generation Selects, which essentially is just a whole line of obscure, lesser known characters getting 21st century updates via repainting already existing figures, from Japanese series fan favorites like Artfire or Black Zarak, to revitalizing the Diaclone franchise by just simply applying their paint jobs to the most modern update of the old figures, or even just doing really nutty homages with unused concepts as was seen with the G2 hero Megatron for the excellent Siege mold. Which of course brings us to the toy-centric repaints, first seen in my collection with the G1 toy color version of Cyclonus, avec Nightstick, which when combined with the repro labels arguably makes the best updates to the character we're ever gonna get. So of course it was only inevitable that the time-hopping lunatic slash Unicron Herald got the exact same treatment, albeit a rarely seen one with a very small window for purchase before disappearing off of the face of the planet. But without further address, let's finally take a look at the full package of Generation Select's G1 Toy Colors Galvatron. Which, when we say full package, we do mean the full package. Because let's face it, there's always going to be a sense of intrigue when you see a small brown box with the oil brand plastered onto it. And with the honeycomb pattern and striking black contrast, it really makes it rewarding when you open it up and see the figure sitting there all tied up with its accessories. But enough of the cardboard already, let's just dig into the plastic. So sitting before us is Galvatron's mobile cannon form, decked out with the original action figure colors, though maybe with a bit of influence from the UK Marvel comics. And isn't it nice just to have a toy of Galvatron that's in a mostly grey away kit for once? Of course the mostly purple layout is arguably more iconic, but it just feels so good to see him in these classic floral dewy colors without feeling like a backhanded compliment. Like the purple is still prominent, but it doesn't overshadow the accents of black, silver, and the surprising stabs of red. It's actually amazing that these colors don't feel like a silly gimmick, but instead a legitimate love letter to the toy that started it all. And I guess it also helps that the cannon mode itself is just a surprisingly solid old mode in general, because you have all the classic design traits like the tread legs and the back tripod and the giant orange barrel just sticking out of the front like a carrot. And thanks to View's video, which you should totally watch, I now know that the cannon mount is designed to resemble the original toy head. God, talk about bonkers yet genius toy design, you know? Now then, by now the eagle-eye viewers will have noticed that there's plenty of holofoil stickers all over the guy's surface area. But that's because Hasbro decided to include an optional label sheet to compound the look of the original toy even further. Now admittedly they are a bit subdued in this mode, popping up mainly on what become the hip skirts and the shoulder pauldrons, as well as on the mount for the cannon. And of course you have the additional appearance of the shimmering red of what becomes the top of the torso. However, the instructions ask you to apply the Decepticon badges in a way that they end up upside down in alt mode, so it looks like you made a little mistake. But that little flub doesn't take away the fact that the stickers helped me to give this figure its identity, like it's popped right out of the 80s and isn't ashamed of it. Because it is basically the original toy just with an engineering and detail update, complete with the metal flake inside of the particle cannon. Also love that they included an old school rub sign, though admittedly it is a bit redundant. And is it me, or are those extra blasters on the side? As if he needs them. Though while we're on the topic of blasters, I guess we might as well talk about these weak-ass accessories that only exist to clog up the design. Now conceptually I don't have a problem with Galvatron coming with a pair of hand blasters in the shape of the Revenge spaceship, especially when they end up combining into this little 4-barrel pea shooter. But I honestly think the designer was running out of time and couldn't think of anything else to do with the cannons other than just slopping them on the side for more unnecessary firepower. Otherwise, the only other accessory they comes with is this comic book colored matrix of leadership, which you can hang over the cannon and to tap into place using the slot underneath it. And while it is equally dumb, it is kind of funny seeing it hang off the barrel like a tacky looking necklace. But let's be honest, you're not buying this guy because of all these wacky little accessories, are you? You're buying it because it's a Galvatron toy in a color scheme that's been shouted for decades simply because it wasn't cartoon accurate. It gives the figure a new sense of identity while also giving people the chance to check out the mold in a completely new light. And if nothing else, it's still a brilliant take on the lovingly ridiculous Galvatron form without really having to compromise anything. Though considering what its competition is, it's not exactly a very high bar to reach, is it? Anyways, here's a hint. Good Primus are wrong, that transformation's amazing! I mean, it was already amazing on the Kingdom version with how it went from mostly grey to mostly purple by simply flipping the torso inside out. So going through while watching the mass of the cannon shift up and collapse in upon itself, it just hits me all the right ways. And of course it leads us to the robot mode, which goes from great to legitimately amazing. As if the colours weren't good enough in cannon mode, now we have them on full display for what is hands down the best robot mode this guy has ever had. Firstly, I just love how dense and compact it feels. You just know that none of the budget was going towards a useless trailer or an abundance of armor pieces just to fill up a price point. It's dedicated to making this guy feel as solid as possible while also filling in as many gaps as it can. It kind of reminds me of when I did that Revenge of the Fallen Optimus review when I said how much I missed the focus on making the toy feel as weighty as possible. And even if it's a reuse of an already existing mold, it doesn't really feel like any corners were cut, it's simply casting the pieces in opposite colors. But even taking that out of the equation, we still have a generally awesome character design for your main baddie. Starting off with the head, I always found it awesome that Galvatron is just wearing a crown like he's declared himself the ruler of the asylum after the warden gun exploded. I also love that they went as far as to paint the face in gunmetal gray to further evoke the feeling of the toy and the original design. Even the chrome silver stickers give it that classic 80s action figure sheen while providing some decent color breakup. In truth, the stickers stand out a lot more in this mode, chiefly the circle-like design details proudly displayed on the chest and shoulder pauldrons. We even get some orange and silver underlays to give it a bit more definition. I even love that they went so far as to give him a full-on belt complete with a golden buckle sitting underneath his chromed out abs. They're simple details, but they just help the design pop all the more. Speaking of, I'm glad that they kept Galvatron's shoulders as rounded as possible without looking ridiculous. It gives him a powerful high shoulder build while also packing as many sculpted details as possible to break up the monotony. And then of course you got the cannon affixed to his arm for all the times that he needs to vaporize any suckers that stand in his way. Kinda wish that this back piece was silver instead of purple, but that is what the toy looked like. Now then, the shoulders themselves have been a major talking point in the original figure due to how early runs of Galvatron had the shoulders misassembled. Essentially, the hinge piece was assembled in upside down so the shoulders sat a few millimeters lower than it should be. So naturally, Hasbro went so far as to fix the issue with later repaints and re-releases of Galvatron so the shoulders sat in the right spot. But whilst I can see the difference now that I have both of them in person, I cannot give myself to give a rat's ass. But the shoulders for the original still work perfectly fine, and it's not like the misassembly results in it breaking or anything. Frankly, it's not even worth getting upset about or providing a very scary looking fix for. Meanwhile, to contrast the battle-like nature of his limbs, the torso itself is nice and angled in a way that looks like he's buried himself in the armor of his madness. Which, when combined with the knee-high boots and the hip skirt panels, gives the impression that he's a delusional knight out to do nothing but cause chaos and mayhem wherever he goes. The actual legs themselves are nice and big, with these massive black shoes that seem to have been designed for nothing other than stomping someone's head into pieces. All these elements come together to create a very powerful and imposing-looking robot mode made out of pure anger and insanity that you do not want to piss off. I think that's kind of what makes Galvatron conceptually even scarier than Megatron, because at the very least you could reason with the old buckethead and somewhat appease to his massive ego. Not so much with this king of the unhinged. He's big, he's mean, he's scary, and he does not give a shit about what you think. But moving on to posing, you have a ball-jointed head which has plenty of spin despite the sculpting restricting up and down movement. Universal shoulders, which measure for the fact that the bicep swivel is completely hindered due to the fact that the treads plug into this pinhole in the back of the arms. And naturally the transformation also allows for a double hinged elbow, which leads to a surprising wrist swivel. Full rotation of the waist while the hips get all the range in every feasible direction. And finally we round that up with a thigh swivel, a deep knee bend, and an actually really clever ankle tilt. Like, the back pylon of the cannon folds into the leg and moves along with the ankle in a surprisingly organic looking tendon. Brilliant. Frankly, the only disappointing thing about this whole package is the blooming accessories that it comes with. Now, the particle cannon gets a pass on the basis that it looks awesome, complemented by the detail work of the sparkly flakes that are embedded within. But just putting the matrix around his neck isn't as fun as it is in the cannon mode, not helped by the blanket green not doing the sculpting any favors. Meanwhile, the Revenge blasters look alright when combined, and Galvatron is using it like the Heavy's minigun. Oh god, I just thought of something. I could totally get Skyquake's minigun and just put it in Galvatron's hands. That would be amazing. But then you put them on their own, then they just look out of place sitting in his hands and wielded in the most uncomfortable way possible. I swear these two only look better than the Kingdom version because at the very least they're not Games Workshop grey. Even plugging them into the back doesn't help as they just stick up way too far, looking really awkward and just make the toy look worse. I honestly get the feeling that he only comes with these just so they can be displayed with that HasLab Unicron. Which, yeah, no thanks. But now we must answer the question that no one here has ever bothered to ask. Which one is better? Because minus the shoulder misassembly thing, there's virtually no difference between these two. Or technically 3. Or 4. Because the sculpting, the accessories, the transformation, the articulation, it's all the same. The only difference being that one is cartoon styled while the other one looks like it jumped out of the 80s toy shelf. But after much consideration and playing with both of them for a while, I have come to this earth-shattering conclusion that will blow your mind. Just get them both. Because there isn't exactly a law out there that says you can't own more than one version of an already excellent figure. And besides, as Few himself has pointed out, there is a galaxy brain-sized loophole that is very easy to exploit. Galvatron, Galvatron 2, it's a thing. You're welcome. But honestly, at the end of the day, what else can actually be said about the Kingdom Galvatron mold? Regardless of which version you stick with or how many of them you have, this is still the best mainstream G1 style Galvatron that we have ever had. True, the road to eventually get to it was messy and filled with extreme disappointments, Titan's return, but getting to bask in the pure majesty of the finished product itself has certainly been worth it. But nonetheless, thanks to you guys for watching and putting up with my insane unannounced hiatuses. But until next time, because there always will be one, this is Callum Lewis, the Media Hood, signing off.